Are you introducing?
Hey, good evening. Welcome to the Resilient Living Podcast. I am Jared Wilson, one of the hosts, joined by my friend Ryan.
Hey, everybody.
Alrighty. Well, while we wait for people to trickle on in, I had a fun product that I literally just got in. So it's like not even on my website yet. Okay, so maybe you don't have, the freeze dryer to preserve your food. Maybe you don't even have the Mylar bags and the oxygen absorbers to, make your wheat flour stay fresh longer. What you can do though is you can get raw wheat berries and you can get yourself your own grinder and grind your own.
Nice.
Okay, so I have a fun story with the grain grinder. Okay, so I was probably about 12 years old. We're at the local consignment shop and we see what I don't remember if it was my mom or my dad, one of them. They saw it and they're like, "Oh, cool, a sausage grinder." Like, sweet. So we get this thing, we take it home, we stick some sausage in there, and it makes a mushy, mucky mess. I mean, it was bad. I was like, "What is going on?" My dad looks at this. He's like, "Huh, that's not a sausage grinder. That's a grain grinder." I'm like, "Well, what do we do with that?" He's like, "Let's get some grain." And so we went and got wheat berries, and we started making our own wheat flour and making our own, fresh bread. Dude, it was so good. Oh my gosh. I love it.
Ideally, after cleaning out the sausage pretty well.
Yes, we did a thorough cleaning of
Yeah.
a thorough cleaning of it. Yes. But it was and it was like after that, I was hooked. And it was fun because like we'd get the wheat berries and you just throw them in your mouth and you start chewing on them and they turn into that gum. It's wheat flavored chewing gum. It was fun. But anyway, so yes, stop by the shop and get yourself a wheat grinder and grind your own wheat.
Yeah, that's the only real way that makes sense to like store wheat long term is to
And that was exactly it's like I mean you can do already milled flour, but then you have bugs that get into it, molds and mildews that can grow in it if it's not preserved without oxygen and moisture, and like there's a lot. It's like just do it as a wheat, and then you can plant it if you need to, and you can eat it if you need to. It's like that makes more sense.
yeah. But it's the oldest store of currency. That's where
Yeah.
paper notes came from.
Right?
Is wheat, storing wheat.
That's right.
If you hold that up again, I have
Yeah.
always had this thought on that or like manual sausage grinders. It's probably not feasible, but what if you took the handle off the end and you put two like locking nuts against each other and then took a power drill, turned it on low?
Sure, why not? I mean, yeah. Why not? It would
Yeah.
work. It should
And then
work.
you use a solar panel to keep your batteries
There
charged.
you go.
So then you
See?
don't have to, get tennis elbow doing that.
It's just you have your kids do it. It's like churning ice cream, right? It's like, yeah, I just have the kids do
Yeah, that's fun until it's not.
it. Yep. That is exactly what it is.
It's like having your kids make butter and they get like halfway through it and they're like, yeah, it's a little bit solid, but it's
It's
bored.
not. And then you give it to dad and he finishes.
Yeah.
Did you like growing up? We would make it in like a mason jar
Mhm.
and just roll it back across the floor until it started getting chunky, and then we give it to my dad and he'd like whack it against his thigh and turn it and whack it against, and like to the point where like he was like bruised. It was yeah. It was
Oh.
like yeah.
Yeah, it seems like there's better. I mean, I get the like the learning experience.
Yeah.
And, this is how, how we used to do things, or, this is the kind of effort it actually takes to do this when we don't have
Right.
modern machinery. So I get the value in it, but and we'll probably do it with my kids at some point, but
Oh,
I
buttermilk
wouldn't do it on a consistent
pancakes.
basis.
Oh, buttermilk pancakes. Mwah. With
Yeah.
fresh butter. Yeah.
Raw milk. You
Yeah.
get locally. Yep.
Right. Alrighty. Okay. So, topic for this evening. So I was thinking, and you and I talked a little bit before. I was thinking about preparedness and resilient living. Yeah, resilient living. And how being resilient and not being dependent upon infrastructure is really the end goal. But even in living that resilient life and having that infrastructure of the animals and the garden and all the stuff, crap still happens. Like, you still have emergencies and disasters. The random snowstorm that happens 2 days after I'm walking around in shorts, like, stuff happens, that can very easily lead to car accidents that knock out power, or that can, stuff, and we've talked about that on other ones. So I just kind of wanted to do it's like a dichotomy, but at the same time, they're they're almost dependent upon each other. Like, is like, it doesn't matter how resilient you are able to live your life. I'm thinking like Laura Ingalls, right?
Mhm.
S- Still happened, like the fire that just about burned everything down, and then they lost everything, and like, stuff still happens. So I want people to not get this false idea that, oh, all I need to do is have this picturesque little farm and then I'm good to go. Like, well, yeah, until there's a hailstorm right before harvest,
Right.
then you have no food, or there's a, God forbid, a fire. Been there, done that. And everything that you have accumulated is gone.
Mhm.
So anyway, so I just kind of wanted to go through the differences between the two mindsets, I guess.
Yeah,
Uh,
because I think you come at it not entirely, but a little bit more on the preparedness side than I do,
yeah,
which is good. Because if you don't have that preparedness mindset, you could be as self-sustaining as you want, and you could die from an infection from a hangnail because you didn't have a couple of little simple preps that you needed,
yeah,
right?
right.
So,
But then
and I
conversely,
come at
like,
it.
I can be like totally prepared for the apocalypse, but then I'll run out of my, stores, and I have nothing because I didn't have any of the gardening and the animals and all the stuff that you do.
Mhm. Yeah, and there's absolute value in both kind of both ends of that spectrum, and meeting somewhere in the middle. Um, there's a podcast that I have a periodic spot on, and his tagline is "When times get tough, or even if they don't." Like
Yeah,
living that better life when times get tough, or even if they don't. So, we shouldn't be spending our credit card on our second generator. What we should be doing is becoming more resilient in various ways,
right.
and part of that is financial, part of that is
Mhm.
it's making sure that we're ready even if times don't get tough, even if the economy doesn't collapse,
Yeah. Oh,
being
yeah.
prepared for that too.
Yeah, there isn't a downside to being, um, independent, and there isn't a downside to being prepared. There is definitely downsides to not being fiscally responsible. Um, and we will have Tabitha on. Life just happened, and she got busy. But we will have Tabby on, and we'll talk about financial preparedness and how to, you know, plan for and finance a lot of what we're talking about. Because you please do not go out and spend $10,000 on, a pallet of freeze-dried food and, 10,000 rounds and an AR-15. Don't do it. These
Or
are
for that
all
matter, don't go and spend, $40,000 hiring me to work for you for months to set up your homestead that you don't even know how to run, right? Like,
sure. Yeah.
there's either side of that
Yeah.
is foolish.
Yeah, those
And
incremental solutions are always going to be sustainable, more sustainable. I can't say absolutely, but they're going to be more sustainable and achievable, and rewarding. Honestly, when you jump into everything, everything just becomes so overwhelming, that it's, yeah, not
yeah,
healthy.
well, and keeping the concept of keeping your powder dry,
Yeah,
whether that's financial or whether that's, some anything else where you're ready and prepared for if in the depression there were people who would walk by a market and go, wow, that's a bushel of apples for 10 cents. I sure wish
right.
I had 10 cents.
Yeah, right.
you know um I don't know if that's the right dollar amount, but having that set aside, whether it's what you're something you can trade, um having food stored up so that when it's really expensive you can go into your stores a little bit, and
Yeah,
then if things come back you can go back into purchasing, and
yeah, and
or
refill your stores.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So Yeah, I think there's a preparing for good times too is important. There's such a culmination of different things that we need to think about, rather than what about this one doomsday situation or
Yes, and that
how
is
can I get
one of
off the grid?
the easiest, things to get hung up on, I see in the prepper community is that scenario base where it's like, "Oh, well, this is what I project is going to happen, so therefore this is what I'm gonna plan for." It's like,
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, but no, I mean, I wouldn't do it that way. Like
Yeah.
there's so many things that could go wrong. So don't, hem yourself in, I guess. So like, yeah, okay. So the core differences between the preparedness versus the self-reliance. So preparedness is, how do I survive when things go wrong, right? Whereas the self sustained living is how do I live well no matter what happens? Which has so much freedom in it. I love it. I really, really, and that's why our business is the name it is because like that's really the goal is to just be able to live life. But then like as I was talking to you about living life, and I was like, oh, but there really actually is a purpose in that preparedness mindset. As long as it's not coming from a place of fear and
Mhm.
anxiety, it's like, no, no, no. I'm prepared because I want to be able to help my neighbors. I want to be able to, take care of stuff when, I'm in the middle of the winter and I don't have a harvest to be able to pull in. So that really kind of is the difference between in the mindset and the philosophy of preparedness versus resiliency.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I guess it just comes back to that, Venn diagram of, they overlap, and how do you find that good balance between the 2 for your given situation as well?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because okay, so preparedness is really short-term scenario based, whereas the reliant is a long-term system based thinking, which is so I don't know, with my brain at least, having systems has been so helpful because I don't have to rely on myself remembering things. If I build a system, I can just like it can be, and I can let it be, and it can take care of things. Like, oh, this is fantastic. For like short-term scenario based, like I'm responsible for collecting all of the things and being prepared for that eventuality. Whereas the system just it's the system, like it's a garden or it's
Mhm.
plants and animals or whatever it is.
Yeah, well, and we can talk, you can think about scenarios like, um, physical security.
Yeah,
Most
sure,
people will go through life not really ever having a major issue with physical security.
true.
They could probably leave their doors unlocked. They could probably be totally fine and not even lose a TV over it, right?
Yeah, right.
But you still should be locking your doors. You still should be having at least some type of the more layers you can put in, if you can put in a fence with a gate, it's going to keep out 99.8% of the people who would try to pull that in the first place because they can't
Right.
get a car up to your house, right?
Yeah.
So there's little things that we can do, and that's, that can double into resiliency, and that, okay, now I've got a perimeter fence that I can keep animals in too. So
Yeah.
you can
There you
layer
go.
those things together.
Absolutely. So yeah, so okay, so some of the things I wrote down. So the mindset and philosophy. So emergency preparedness, focusing on risks, threats, disruptions. And we talked about this a couple of weeks ago where we were doing a risk analysis basically of like what's most likely the things that would or could happen in your area. And we got some really interesting ones because like I don't know if Vic's in here or not, but like we had, you know, in him in Arizona, very different potential risks were from versus, Middle Tennessee. So that was something like that's something you have to evaluate for yourself for your area. I'm like you live right next to a nuclear missile silo, different threats. Uh, if you live in North Dakota, I'm sorry. Um,
Different threats like
different
cold.
threats. Yeah. Oh, hey Caleb, what's up, bro? Research is key. Hold on, I want to show that. Sorry. Research is key for preparations. Absolutely, Caleb.
Mhm.
Absolutely agreed. Cannot. Yes, becoming educated, and I'll go a little bit further. Not just educated, because it's really easy to get stuck in an echo chamber. when you go looking for certain issues, you can find people who agree with you. Just because they agree with you doesn't make it right. So, finding good sources, good authoritative sources, um, to learn from is really key in a lot of what preparedness is around. Okay, so we talked a little bit about EMPs, and there's a startling lack of authoritative sources.
Mhm.
like a, l- v- there's not a lot, and I guess I get it. Like, it's really hard to emulate this stuff at an actual level and test things. Like, I started doing the research to try to figure out, because I want to test this myself. I want to see how good these Friday bags are.
Yep.
Um, Producing electromagnetic pulses at those types of frequencies and those types of amplitudes is really difficult. And I think I'm on a lot of watch lists because of my research.
That's why you use the what is it? There's a few different uh, OSs or operating systems you can install, like Tails.
Yeah, right.
That yeah, then you're good. But yeah, I hear you. You got to be careful about that.
Yeah, right. So preparedness, we're looking, risks and threats and disruptions. What if X happens? Whereas self-sustaining, we're focusing on stability, independence, and adaptability. And adaptability was one that I really wanted to kind of, especially with you, Ryan. Like, that's something that we pride ourselves on, really, is our ability to adapt and overcome in different environments.
Mhm. Yeah,
So, like, yeah, go
yeah.
ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say there's such a value in, because we talked about troubleshooting quite a few different times,
Yeah,
in like
exactly.
being able to look in your bag or look in your car or whatever. Like look at the materials you have and how do you know make what you have work.
Hmm.
I remember watching, it was a dumb show, but it was like Bear Grylls doing one of
Oh,
his survival things.
yes.
And he used, I think it was a frozen Snicker bars as an anchor in an ice sheet for his rope to climb down. It's like, it,
Uh,
but when you start to understand physics, when you have
yeah,
that interaction with the real world, when you know a little bit about just enough about electrical systems,
yeah,
um, whatever it is, most people couldn't just take a solar panel and a buck converter
and just
and
hook it up. Yeah,
hook it up and charge just about anything they want. And it's fairly simple to understand how to do. So yeah, that like being adaptive and being able to like not just, you know, not just do the thing that you've been taught you can do, but find ways to do the things you're not supposed to be able to do.
right.
Um, really becomes helps you become a lot more prepared and a lot more resilient in situations you wouldn't expect.
Exactly, and that was kind of why I really liked the adaptability thing, was because it has so much application on both sides of this equation, where our ability to be adaptable works in both preparedness as well as resiliency.
Yeah, well, and to be able to step back and go, what is the subtlety of the thing that I'm doing wrong that's not allowing this to work oftentimes is really valuable too.
Yeah,
Um, Simple example is I've set people up, or I've, talked on YouTube and gotten kickback about like using wood chips in a chicken coop. And I've got a little tiny chicken coop with anywhere from about 15 to 18 chickens and a couple of ducks,
yeah,
goose, all that. This little tiny, I think is it like it's like 3 or 4 by 6, so tiny.
yeah.
Um, I clean it out once every 2 years, and it doesn't smell, it doesn't get gross, but there's subtleties to it, and so people say, "Oh, you can't do that. I've tried it." And you can't use wood chips. I've tried it. It's like, well, oftentimes they're like using wood shavings, so they're not
Ah,
absorbent.
right.
They don't have end grain. So it's like these little, I know that's nuanced, right? It's inside baseball kind of, but it's an example of how being adaptable and understanding how things work rather than just trying to emulate something that you see it's important to understand the why so that you can actually,
Yes,
you know, apply that somewhere as it's an applied thing as opposed to a just a straight knowledge thing.
absolutely. Yes, could not agree more. So self-sustained living is really looking to reduce outside dependencies. Like, how can I provide my own food, water, electricity, medical, whatever? Like any time where we have to go outside of our own properties, our own knowledge, our own stores, like that's really what we're trying to achieve is that, reducing that outside dependency. Whereas a lot of preparedness is very outside dependent. Like, you got to come to Resilient Living and buy the stuff.
Mhm.
You got to come to the classes. You got to do the things. So it's really, there's that's where the dichotomy kind of comes in, where we have, we're trying to reduce our outside dependence on one side, but then we're kind of reliant on our outside on the other side. So good and bad,
Yeah,
I
well,
guess.
you're bringing in product, right?
Yes.
And you're not gonna make an amazing nylon strap for, I don't know, you're just not gonna do that in your house, right?
Right. Right.
It's not a skill worth having, and
Yeah.
even if
Oh,
you
I mean, like,
even
how
if
many
you did,
people
what
can make their own, like, ham radio? I'm like, I know that there's people out there and they have a, bench full of, transistors, resistors, capacitors, all the things. They could do it. Like, I can make an op amp out of a tin can and a like, well, yes, you can, but like, I can also sell you a Baofeng for $50. Like,
right. Well, and did you buy the resistor or,
yeah, yeah, no, you're making it. We're gonna wrap
or the
cotton around a.
transistor? I mean, can you make a transistor in your garage?
We're
It seems
we're
unlikely.
we're doping
Um,
p-in junctions. We can do it. We can. No, we
yeah.
can't.
No, and so it really does come down to I don't know. I mean, even in reliance in this kind of more self-reliant or um, self-sustaining
Yeah.
system, we're trying to fold everything back in. So one
Mhm.
thing ties back into the other, ties back into the other, and it becomes a resilient kind of network.
Yeah.
But sometimes, like, I have to buy things to make my homestead be able to do that.
Yes.
I'm not gonna go smith my own, pitchfork,
No, no.
right? I suppose I could grow one out of a willow or something. I don't know. I've seen people do
Some
that. It's kinda
ironwood or
cool,
something.
but
Yeah.
yeah, but the reality is I don't have the time to do that stuff, and I have to pay my property taxes, and, the system is not set up. It's intentionally set up so that you can't really succeed being truly
Sure.
self-sufficient. Um, and so outside inputs make sense.
Outside inputs make sense. And there's okay, so let's go back 150 years to where there wasn't a lot of that, um the system being turned against us. They still would go to the neighbors. They would still go to the smithy. They would still go to the lumber mill a lot of times. They didn't always, make their own boards. I mean, yeah, they did to some extent, but not always. So that and my concern with a lot of the homestead content I see on Instagram and on TikTok is it sells a version that isn't sustainable, and isn't necessary. Like,
Mhm,
if you were to reduce your outside dependence by a few percent, the impact to yourself, the impact, if everybody were to even just reduce by a few percent, oh my gosh, entire infrastructures would have to shift.
mhm.
It would be massive. And that's what I really want to kind of encourage everybody is, we're not talking like sell everything, go live on 50 acres in the middle of nowhere with no power, no water, no nothing, collect all your, nuts off the, forest floor. No, it's incremental. It's just a little bit. Just think of something, one thing that you don't have to be dependent upon the outside for. Just one thing.
Yeah, absolutely, and work towards it. Find things you can trade,
Yeah.
start if you're the person who is buying your beef from a local rancher or
Yeah.
a local homestead, whatever, local farm, and you've already got that partnership set up,
Hmm.
if beef becomes extremely hard to get, they're not going to sell to the outside person. They're going
They
to
already
sell
know
to the
you.
person you already know. They already know.
Yep.
So start there. You're not even doing anything other than, instead of buying your beef at Walmart, you're buying your beef from a local farmer. You're
Yeah.
supporting them.
You're
The
supporting a
price
local farmer. Awesome.
the price is probably better anyways. Um, It, it,
Unfortunately, yeah.
yeah. Though even if it's more, it's worth it. It's a better product. But you're supporting somebody local. You're building a relationship that's actually going to matter for you. It's in one sense a very real practical preparedness thing that you can do.
Very.
Um, so even if that's it, but I always try to sell it this way as well for those who are worried about, us being in a position where like the only way anybody's going to survive, at least if they live a normal life, is like government rations for a while because something goes really haywire.
Yeah, right.
Well, government rations are going to be what, 20, 30% of your food, maybe.
Maybe.
If you're making 20, 30% of your food, you can avoid that.
Yep.
And you can, now you don't have to, I don't know, get the, or whatever else
Or whatever. Yeah, exactly.
whatever
Whatever's
else
next.
is required to get
Yeah.
the food. Now you can avoid that because you've done something to make yourself healthier that's better for you in general. And now you're producing that maybe 20, 30% of your food.
Right.
So yeah, it leaves you better off, but it is in one sense a level of preparedness too.
Yeah. Well, and okay, so let's transition right into that's a perfect segue into so from a preparedness standpoint, I believe everybody should have just food on hand. So whether that's like a 72-hour kit, if that's 2 weeks, if that's a month, whatever, everybody should have that. Whereas from your side, you'd want everybody to what have a garden, right? Or livestock or some chicken, something, right?
Well, it could be meat on the hoof,
Yep.
which that can be actual,
Good
sheep or
storage
cattle or
system.
something. Yeah, yeah, right. It's solar powered too.
Hey. Nice.
um, it could be a freezer that's full of ideally meat because it's a lot more nutrient dense than and
Yes.
calorie dense than veggies. But that's a personal thing. Um, I just don't want to spend the kind of time and effort it takes to keep a freezer going to keep
To keep
veggies.
veggies. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Sure.
But yeah, I mean, a garden having chickens that can, maybe like in my case, we do give them grain or feed,
Yeah.
but if they had to totally fend for themselves, we've got enough space for them to do that. We'll just get less eggs.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, I mean, my idea is I want to have better food, but a freezer gives me the ability to have really great food and just store up a bit extra for if something goes wrong.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah, and like, well, that's one of the reasons, like, I really like having the freeze-dried food buckets is, like, if something were to go wrong, but not even necessarily with me, like, if my neighbors needed something, like maybe,
Mhm.
tree fell on their house and crushed their freezer and they lost all of their or maybe they're on vacation and power went out and nobody knew it and everything went rancid. I
Right.
have food that I can just, "Here you go. Take it."
Mhm. Yeah, for
So
sure.
having those preparedness items really is beneficial when stuff happens.
Well, and even having, the stereotypical rice and beans and salt.
Yep,
Um,
better than nothing.
right. Well, even if it's you've got what you need, but all your neighbors know that you're kind of a preparedness weirdo or
Yeah,
whatever.
right.
And they come knocking when things go bad, and you're like, "Well, here's some beans and rice and salt.
Right.
Enjoy."
Enjoy. Yes. Oh goodness. Yes. No kidding. All right. So yeah. So timing was the other aspect of the preparedness versus the resilient. So like most emergencies, most disasters, you're talking hours, days, weeks. Like I mean, like hurricanes. That would be. I was trying to think like what's the worst possible duration. It would be like what we saw with the hurricane, like blocking access into some of the little hollers, like up in Tennessee and
Mhm.
Carolinas. Like that was bad. Um, and that was like what a month or so they had limited access.
Well,
Some
depends
areas
on
maybe a little bit more.
depends, but for the most part, yeah, it was a couple of months, and some rednecks got some bulldozers or something in there.
We take care of our own. We
Yeah,
we don't wait
by
for
that,
FEMA.
I do not, redneck is not a disparaging word there.
No, no, no. Well, dude, it's like, going through, a national or, natural disaster and having the fire and everything. FEMA rolled out. They were useless. They were
Mhm.
so useless.
Yeah.
I hated them. So anyway, so preparedness is fairly short term, whereas, on the resilient side, and we kind of talked a little bit about this last week, generational even.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right, 'cause it's not just months, it's not just years. I mean, I've got to plan out, a few months ago, we started planning out the garden, where we're gonna put things, what things we're gonna grow this year, what things
Right?
we like, what things weren't worth it last year or didn't do well last year. Um, and that's generally about the shortest term you're gonna be thinking.
Sure.
Um,
Sure. One grow season.
yeah. Well, because the rest of the garden, like, we're building it out to be years and years, or,
Right.
as I'm looking at your notes and you put down generations, right? Because
Hmm.
ideally, we're building that soil to be handed down. It's a
Yeah.
gift. And so, and it can be better and better as we use it. So the time horizon is totally different. But we could have a fire come through, or we could have a tornado touchdown that damages our home, or
Yeah.
whatever the case might be. So yeah, that the short term, realizing that there is a value in that short time horizon and preparing for it, but also realizing that if you're prepared for that and nothing else,
Yeah.
you're assuming that everything's going to kind of get back to normal within a certain amount of time.
Yeah. And I guess that's really, it was kind of the mindset I went into this thinking was both are useful mindsets, but neither is a complete mindset.
Hmm.
But it can be really easy to fixate on one or the other, and at the cost of the opposing side of the equation. So, yeah,
Yeah. Well, and you know, you get into some of the preparedness groups that I would never be a part of, and there's a handful of people. I think they're a very small minority, hopefully, but they're like, well, if things go bad, I've got a lot of guns and ammo, and I'll just steal what I need. And it's like, are you going to enslave the people who know how to grow the food that you don't know how to grow? Then no.
right, yeah, because
Like,
that's a resource that's going to run out.
yeah,
It's like,
yeah, because you
no,
can steal food for a little while until you get shot, or even if you don't, like, at some point the food's going to run out, and the only people with food are those who grow it. And at that point, they're going to be wise to your scheme, and
yeah,
it's not going to work anymore.
yeah, live by the sword, die by the sword.
Yeah. But
Oh
fortunately,
goodness.
like I said, I think that's a pretty small,
Yeah, I hope it
chunk.
is, because I've run into it myself, and it's really disheartening. I'm like, dude,
Mhm.
is that really the life you want to hand down to your kids? Is that cutthroat, um, like Waterworld-esque kind of like,
Yeah.
no, it's Mad Max. Like, ew, no,
Mhm.
not, it's a fun movie, but reality is that's not a life I want to live.
No. No, weapons should be defensive.
Yeah, it's like, no, I'm going to stop a threat. I'm not going to go in and incite a, response. Like, no, that's not how. Okay. So we harped on the, time frames that those are. The next section I had was tools versus systems. Because and a perfect example, you come into my shop and it's full of tools. They're things which are great resources to have. They aren't always necessary. They usually make they magnify or amplify your abilities. They make things easier. Absolutely awesome. There's secondary, maybe even tertiary to the knowledge and the experience. Um, but on the resilience side, it's not nearly as much about the tools, is it?
No, I mean, you need the tools to build the systems,
Sure.
but the tools are a means to an end.
Right.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, you can get some bushcraft guy who can take some flint and make himself a knife and,
Sure.
uh, build his way up, but we have the benefit of being able to take those tools and use them and think through, get the tools from somebody else and then think through how are we going to use them so that we don't necessarily even need them so much anymore. You know,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, having those systems in place where it becomes self-sustaining. I was thinking about like growing what do they use in Britain for their living, walls for like their animals?
like a hedge, like
Hedgerows, yeah.
elderberry, and
Or hawthorn? Is it hawthorn?
that's one of them.
It's one. Yeah,
Sometimes.
it's like it's this really hard wood that's got kind of like spikes on it basically, and like the
Mhm.
animals just stay away from it. And so like there's these hedgerows that have been there for hundreds of years, and
More. Yeah.
they're self-sustaining. They're just, they planted them once, 150 years ago, and they just keep weaving them together, and they make these really beautiful, weaves in them, and they're really cool. But it's a system.
Yeah. So here, at least in the South, I forget what zone they peter out at, probably zone 5, but we've got bodock, also
Okay.
known as Osage orange, also known
Oh,
as hedge apple, also
yeah, yeah.
known as there's like 10 different names for it, but
Right.
um, it's a it's a very hard wood that has a tendency to curl down,
Okay.
and it will
The
tip
root
roots. You can
itself. Yeah. Okay.
Mhm. And it's got these really nasty thorns.
Ha.
And so they're not huge, they just hurt really bad when I think they've got some compound in them that
Okay.
makes them hurt even more than other thorns do. So I think it was Benjamin Franklin said there was it hog tight and horse high or something like that.
Okay.
But you've got these balls and you can break them apart and there's hundreds of seeds in there, and
Oh
you can
wow.
basically the idea is you can dig a small trench, put
And
the
just
seeds
plant these
in.
along.
Yeah, cover it back up, and within a few years, you've got a hedgerow.
Nice.
Yeah, it's not fun to manage if you need to
Oh,
cut it down, but
sure, sure. But
which is, I think, why nobody uses it,
yeah.
but it's in some ways, it's a lot easier than planting a fence or
Well, yeah. I mean,
planting a fence,
yeah,
installing a fence.
installing one. Because I
Yeah,
mean, yeah, how often do you have to go in and you have to walk your fence line and, "Oh, no, the cows got through that one," or, goats or whatever. You gotta fix it again and again, and, like, that's a fairly common trope
yep.
within. Yeah.
Yesterday, I had to help my neighbor get her lambs back in. Like,
Perfect
happens all
example,
the time. Yeah.
right? So, yeah, having those renewable systems, having those, systems like, yeah, and I guess it kinda on the equipment side of things, it's kinda like the buy once, cry once. Like, yeah, it might take
Mhm.
a little extra time and thought to plan it out, but it's worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and with systems, it's like a system will always break. You always need to have that mindset of how do I, how do I troubleshoot it? How do I break down the components to understand
Right.
what's going on? How do I have a few extra of the most likely things to break?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Just so those systems, in one sense, we're building something that's resilient and renewable. On another, in another sense, some of these things we're using some modern technologies. Solar panels can go bad,
Sure.
or you could leave your plumbing when it's going to freeze and
Oh, yeah,
have to fix it. Um, Pumps go bad, things like that. So we can do a lot of things we couldn't before, but if you do that, you need to think about how do you make sure that that's long-term resilient and you have what you need, both skill, tool, and equipment wise,
sure.
to keep that system going.
I know my cousin, he built a lot of, rock crawlers back in California, and, one of the things that he, would do is he wouldn't necessarily upgrade the U joints because they were easy to carry extras of, and if he upgraded everything else would be fine, and that would be the failure point is the U joint. So,
It's like
you
a
get in.
shear pin.
Exactly, is
Yeah.
is you could have this weak point that you intentionally leave there, but just because it's easy to replace, it's fairly cheap to replace, and you can carry a whole bunch of extras.
I like that. Yeah. So, because other people may not be aware, I think a lot of people watching would be, but rock crawlers are like vehicles, trucks that are made specifically for climbing, like
Yeah,
rocky spaces,
yeah,
large rocks.
high articulation. Yeah, we'd so like mine. I had a 94 Yoda, and I had solid axle swap the front end, so like I could twist up onto like 60-inch rocks on one side, and the cab
Wow.
would almost be flat. It was I had 10.5 inches of overall lift on it. It was the goofiest looking truck. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. It
Gotta be
was great.
fun to drive though.
It was a blast. I mean, it went all of like 40 miles an hour. It was not a fast vehicle, but it was great. The first time I went into a ditch, and it was like a 4-foot drop. I dropped into it. I was like, "Oh, I must have missed it," because my cab was still flat. I go to get out of my truck and just about fall like 6 feet straight down. I was like, "Oh no, I didn't miss it. It did exactly what it was designed to do." I was like, "This is awesome."
Nice.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, and then for those, I'm sure everybody knows, but like on a, let's say we're using a bush hog, one
Mm,
of those big mowers behind a tractor.
yep.
There's an intentional shear pin so that if you hit a big rock or stump or something and the blade stops, that pin shears and you don't damage your tractor.
Because that would
So
suck.
yeah, and it's supposed to help protect the gearbox and things. But yeah, like
Yeah.
building in that resilience and understanding that you can build in a sacrificial piece. Maybe you build in a sacrificial piece of your pipe that will freeze first intentionally so that it drains everything
Yeah,
if you
right.
forgot.
Yeah,
So
you do a something at the bottom where you have like almost like a gooseneck kind of thing at the bottom that can just pop, and then you're like, "Oh, that just drained everything out. We're good."
yep, exactly.
All right.
So
So, yeah,
what's next?
dependency versus independence. So this is kind of where like on the equipment side of things, you're kind of tied to going to replace that thing because you run out, because like freeze dried foods, unless you have a freeze dryer, you're coming, if you used them, well, you got to replace it. So you got to go back and get it. Whereas on the resilient side, you've built that system, right? Where you have the smoker or the whatever your preservation method is of choice. So that was kind of my mindset on the dependency versus independency between the two. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, it does. Well, and I think we talked before about like, what if you produce 30% of your food,
Yeah,
right?
right.
And that's great for resiliency, but it's not great for an emergency
Right.
unless you've stored something. So this idea of storing something when you need 100% of your food for a couple of weeks,
Hmm.
store something. But for the rest of the time, you're reducing what you need to you're constantly working on reducing how much reliance you have on the outside inputs.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So and so yeah, you go to the grocery store and it's the buying the extra can. Like when you're buying, your corn chowder, whatever you're buying, like instead of buying 4 cans, because you know you're gonna go through 4 cans a month, buy 5, maybe
mhm.
buy 6. Over time, you'll accumulate extra, then you have some stores so that in an emergency, you've got that. Um, and then on the resiliency side, having those preservation methods really important. The more I think about it, it's like, man, that really is kind of the crux. Like I can have a massive garden, but if I have no way of preserving that, I mean, whether
Mhm.
it's like, throwing it in the freezer, like you said, or, freeze drying it or dehydrating it or smoking it or whatever, it really does come down to that preservation, huh?
Yeah, well, and canning is actually a pretty modern practice.
Right?
That's so freezing is the most modern probably. Well, no, okay. Freeze drying, freezing, canning.
Yeah, sure.
Dehydrating's been around for forever in certain ways at least. Um, but fermenting was another big one, and people
Ooh,
don't think about that.
that's a good one. You're
Yeah.
right.
So fermenting is like instead of canning, people would have fermented things and they'd last for a long time.
Sure.
Like
And really
sauerkraut,
good for your gut biome, like
mhm.
really good.
Yeah,
Mm.
like sauerkraut, you can put in basically an open vat and scrape the crap off the top when you're ready to eat it,
Ew,
right? Like,
that's nasty.
yeah, but it's
True.
good for you. And every single culture ever had had multiple fermented foods.
Sure.
And we don't do that anymore.
I mean, like what? We got pickles. I mean, like if you like sauerkraut, then I guess you have sour, but like,
Pickles aren't even fermented.
oh yeah. Huh.
I make fermented pickles and they're
Yeah, yeah.
amazing. But so lacto fermented pickles, you should look them up. They're pretty easy. But most pickles now are just they're water bath canned, and that's what creates the taste and feel of a pickle. And
Ah.
so they're not even fermented. Um, breads would have historically, even if they're not, sourdough, they would have
Oh,
been fermented, right?
right.
Because the yeast would have been something that is carried from one loaf to another
Sure.
intentionally.
Sure.
So it kind of would have been a version of sourdough, and it would have always been, even if this stuff wasn't alive because you baked it, it
Yeah.
would have been a living enzyme that broke it down. Now the yeasts they use, a lot of them are, I think they're GMO, and then you have so many, they're like, you're not, and it's not real products either. It's not something that what's in your bread, no bacterium is going to break down
Right.
appropriately. So yeah, fermented foods are something that humankind has always used as preservation. I mean, even some meats were preserved with certain forms of fermenting. Not for as long of a time, but curing, drying, stuff
Right.
like that. Those are all things that I think we'd be well served to learn and start bringing back.
Sure. Yeah. I want to say lutefisk, I think is what it was.
Hmm.
Is a Norwegian. Yeah, I think it's preserve. I think it's a fish that they preserve
Yep,
from fermentation.
it is. It's big in the Lutheran church.
Oh, sure, because Lutherans are, yeah, big up there. All right.
Yeah, yeah. I grew up
Oh,
in
hey Vic.
Wisconsin, and that was a big thing.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
sure, that makes sense. What's up, Vic? What we got? Being on solar really makes you think of alternate food preservations. All of them, I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to be very judicious with your power usage. So
Yep.
that would make a lot of sense. Yeah, probably a freeze dryer going for like 36 hours straight is probably not great.
No, you're not gonna run a freeze dryer on solar. I really don't care who you are. It's not a
Like that's not a good
not a
idea.
viable option, or generator for that matter.
I've got a neighbor. He runs a generator. I swear it's 24/7. I hear that thing
Does he
all.
have a natural oil, or sorry, natural gas well?
No, I watch his truck go by with a um it's got to have at least 6 gas cans across the back of it. And they go multiple times a week to the gas station, fill up, come back. Like, bro, that's a lot of money to be spending to stay off grid. Like, that's a lot.
That's not off grid, because when power goes down, gas doesn't come.
Perfect example that where your independence becomes a dependency when you're tied into it, the infrastructure. You're not actually free.
Yeah. What if they tied into the grid, and the money they saved on gas, they could set aside until they could buy a really nice solar electric system
Yeah,
and not have to run a
and not
generator
have to run a
24/7.
generator. Yes. Oh, I know
And
it.
yeah, Vic says, solar
Solar.
dehydrator,
Nice.
smoker. Yeah,
Heck yes.
absolutely. All great options, and yeah, smoking meat, drying meat, lots of stuff you can do. I'm all for the freezer because it's so easy, and
Throw
I've
it in a
got enough
bag,
solar,
throw
I
it,
can keep it up running.
done. Yeah,
Yep.
right. I've got these like because I worked at Midstate Motorsports, I've got access to all these like 55-gallon drums. Like I really want to make my own smoker just because like I've got them. Why not?
Yep. Just wanna make sure to burn it out real well and
Oh
bring
yeah.
it out.
Well, yeah, anytime you're welding, that's always going to be that case.
Yeah.
All right. So next one was yeah, skills versus supplies. On the preparedness side of things, it's a lot of gear. I mean, like it's a tourniquet, it's communications, it's planning and all of the stuff that comes with preparedness. Whereas like on the resiliency side, its skills are really more important than the equipment that supports them, huh?
That's true, but I'm gonna push back on this a little
You're
bit.
good. I like it.
Okay. So
Because I know there is a
when
lot of like, yeah, on
yeah,
both sides of
because
this.
the gear on the preparedness side, you need to know how to use it if you're going to use it, right? If
Yes.
you haven't taken a course or at least watched a YouTube video or something on tourniquets, like
Right. You're
from a
going to put them
reputable
on.
source,
Yeah.
yeah,
You're
it's
not going
not
to
going to
tighten
be
it tight
useful.
enough. I guarantee you. Like, I
Yeah.
don't care how tight you think it needs to be tighter.
Yeah. And if you think you're just going to whip your belt off and use that as a
Don't
tourniquet,
do that. Don't do that. Please don't do get a real okay,
yeah.
North America Rescue. I'm telling you guys, just get a North America Rescue tourniquet, get a legit and like you said, get trained.
Mhm.
There aren't a lot of, good, trauma-based trainings. 580 Tactical. If you're in the Middle
Yeah, I was
Tennessee
going to say,
area,
does Silas do it?
yes, he does.
Okay.
Go to 580tactical.com. Silas Gold's got a course. I want to say it's this next weekend. Because yes, it
Cool.
is this next weekend because it was the same time I'm doing my women's handgun safety course, which I was really bummed because I really wanted to take his class. But anyway, you go through his class, you get an IFAC individual first aid kit, and he teaches you how to use all of it, and he feeds you at the same time. So it's awesome. So part of the cost of the course is you get the IFAC and scenario based training on how to use it, like how to yank somebody out of a car without hurting him worse, and how to apply that tourniquet and make sure it's actually tight enough, and how to use a chest seal and all of the wonderful things. So go to 580tactical.com, follow them on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all the things.
And if I'm not mistaken, they're feeding people like true
Farm to
farm to
table.
table.
Yeah, he grows all of his own stuff. Oh, he's got a course coming up that is a full-on foraging class. He's going to walk people through his like he's got 80 acres or something. He's going to walk people around and like, eat this, don't eat that. Do a full-on foraging class, which is awesome.
Cool.
So, yeah, go check out 580tactical.com.
Nice. That's a great resource.
Okay. So I'm sorry, you were going to push back on me.
Oh, no, that was my
Okay.
pushback was,
Okay.
the equipment requires skills. And even the skill-based stuff you're talking about, I mean, it requires fencing, which is equipment, or it requires,
True.
you know, it requires a certain level of equipment. So there's definitely crossover there. But at the same time, I see your point.
Yeah, I get you. I get you. So yeah, so I had so on the preparedness, that gear comes first, tourniquets being a primary example, because yeah, I technically I could probably use some inanimate object, my shirt or whatever. um they rip, they don't, it doesn't work well. If I have access to an opportunity to use an actual tourniquet, yes, I'm going to. Yes, I can make a chest seal with some tape and cellophane, like, yeah, but a real chest seal is a whole lot easier. um like, if if somebody was in fibrillation, like, I'm going to use a defib. I'm not going to use do the MacGyver 12-volt battery, grab them with some jumper cables. Don't
Yeah,
do that.
because 12-volt batteries are really going to give you enough
Oomph.
voltage to plenty of amperage, not a
Yeah,
whole lot of voltage.
no. Yeah, so like, yeah, so and gear is really important. And it's worth getting good gear. And we're going to do another podcast here in the next little bit about Gucci gear and the pitfalls of chasing brands instead of quality. But it's really truly is an issue when you go after a name versus just something that is reliable, because then you end up spending money on a name instead of maybe getting the equipment and the training that goes with the equipment.
Yep. Yeah, well, and that's a really great point, having uh, that reserve. If you can afford the more expensive thing that doesn't give you any meaningful value,
Right.
now you can take that money and put it towards something else to make yourself more resilient, and maybe that's
Yeah.
training.
Yeah. Oh,
Because
absolutely. Well, okay. So Tabitha, who's going to talk about financial stuff, she was here yesterday, and we were talking, and she was asking about concealed carry, and she's like, well, how much should I plan on it costing? And then we were talking about, like, okay, we'll take the total cost of the gun, the ammunition, the training, and amortize that across a year, and then that figure so that she could figure out exactly how much per month to set aside.
Mhm.
Fantastic. And that's one of the reasons, like, I was really adamant when I got my firearms license that I wanted a system that would allow me to do like, um, oh shoot, what's it called? I keep on saying layover, but that's not right. Layaway,
Mhm.
because I don't want people spending money on credit cards that they don't have. I would much rather you come in every month and just pay a little bit towards your whatever, so that you can get that thing in the end without having to pay all this money to interest instead of just directly to principal. Because that's what's important to me is I want you to be able to come in, get the item and all whatever is needed to support that item to achieve that end as possible. And I don't want you spending money on interest. That's stupid. Like,
Right.
why would I do that? So yeah, that's really important. And we've talked about that. It's really important to me that your money goes as far as possible in my store.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, so that's kind of okay. I'll get off my soapbox.
No, I love that, and that's, that's why we work together is, and do this together is I know that I can when people see you on my YouTube channel and they go, "Who is that guy?" and they look you up, I know that they're going to get somebody they can trust, and so man, I so much appreciate the way that you approach people on that, and that's why I keep mentioning the whole, you'll turn somebody down who comes in waving a credit card at you.
That's right. I mean, it's not that I don't accept credit cards, but we're gonna have a
Mhm.
conversation first. So
Right. Yes, just don't put all your, don't buy $10,000 worth of food and preparedness gear on a credit card when you can't afford it.
yeah,
So,
absolutely. Yes.
yep.
Oh, what did Vic say? Thought came to mind. Hold on, I want to see this. Thought came preparedness reduces the need for resourcefulness. Resilient living makes you think about how you can solve a problem without having the foresight or luxury to prepare for it.
Yeah, so that's the skill
Yeah.
side.
And
Um,
that is
and I think that's kind of mental preparedness
it
in
is.
that sense, I suppose.
It really is. And I am happy to have those types of I love having those conversations when people come in the shop and like if they come in and say, I want this, like, yeah, I can get it for you, whatever. Let's have a conversation. Like, what is it you're trying to achieve?
Mhm.
What's your goal here? Let's
Yep.
come up with a good solution for your goal. Maybe you even have part of your good solution. Maybe we just have to amend it a little bit. And that's where the creative problem solving comes in. It's like, hey, what do you have that's almost working? Like
Yeah.
let's just add something to that. Let's just tweak that just a little bit. We'll figure something out.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's a great approach, and and asking the why as opposed to just, "Oh, how can I get you the thing that you're asking for?"
Right. Okay, so I
Um,
had a guy come
yep.
in and he wanted some Baofeng radios. I'm like, okay, cool. He's like, yeah, I've got some of the little ones. I'm like the UV5R. He's like, yeah, I've got. I'm like, okay, cool. He's like, my only issue is like, he's like, they're a pain to charge because you have to plug them into the cradle.
Mhm.
And they just don't have a very good battery life. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I'm like, okay, well, I'll order you. I think I ordered him the 17R plus. Great radios. And then I'm like, hey, I went ahead and ordered these USB-C extended batteries for your UV5Rs. If you want them, they have USB-C integrated right into the battery and increased capacity. So your UV5Rs become more viable, useful with your new 17 pluses than they were before. And he's just like, dude, thank you. Like, yeah, sure. Yeah, I
Mhm.
want that. It's like, I like doing this. This is what I do.
Yeah, finding solutions. It's, so I do a segment on the survival podcast,
Yeah.
and one of the questions that came in was from Matt Powers, who's like basically at this point the leading soil guy in the regenerative agriculture space.
Right.
And he was asking about, well, how do I run my water pump off of solar in case power goes out?
And you're like, haha.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, let's think about this. Is that actually what you want to do? Right?
Right.
Because there's batteries other than lithium iron phosphate.
Yeah.
So,
Oh yeah.
and by that I mean a water battery. If you
Yeah.
can,
Pressure is
the
pressure.
sun's shining, or well, there's, well, you have grid power or whatever, could you be pumping that up to a tank at the top of a hill? Or,
Yes.
what are, maybe it makes more sense just to have a generator on hand that can run your pump. And because
Sure.
you're only going to be doing it for, I don't know, an hour a day while you irrigate or whatever. Or maybe it makes more sense to, if you're going to do the solar for the well pump, well, make it just a tiny bit bigger and run your freezers and lights off of it. And put it in the house instead of just running the well pump, right? So,
Sure.
it really smart people can miss simple things because it's not their area, it's not their thing.
Yeah.
And so just asking the question, well, what are you trying to accomplish? Not here's the thing that accomplishes the thing that you're asking about.
Right.
Here's the product you asked me for. It's, you know, not to get in your business, but what's your intention? What are you
Yeah.
using it for? How can
Well,
I help you make sure?
and I get to do that, which is great because I get to do that all the time whenever anyone comes in. I cannot tell you how many of your cards I've given out or Silas's cards. Like people come in like, "Hey, I'm looking for equipment." I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool. What are you up to?" "Oh, we just bought 5 acres and we're trying to." I'm like, "Hey, so I've got this friend." Because I don't have the expertise that you have. So you become the commodity that I get to sell. Basically, it's like, hey, I have a friend. He can
Yeah.
help you.
Well, and it's vice versa. Like I did a consult for your like neighbors just across,
Right?
literally across the highway there. And
Yeah.
I'm like, hey,
Hey,
do you know what resilient living is? And they're,
that's funny.
you need to talk to Jared.
I was
And
talking to somebody and they're like, yeah, I come and I sit in the parking lot sometimes, but I refuse to go inside because I know I'm going to want everything and I don't want to spend all my money. I'm like, okay, that's valid, but please come inside anyway.
yeah, just come in and talk. But yeah, I mean, if I can point them to, like, there's so many people up in your area when I do consultations and they've got kids. I'm like, have you ever gone to the Spencer Library?
Oh, dude, right?
And they're like, why would I go there? Like, well, let me tell you,
Yes.
you are missing out if you don't.
Yeah, if you are
Or
in the Spencer area, please go to the library, and
yeah,
yes, that is
or
such an
somebody's like, I
amazing
want to
resource.
get goats. I'm like, do you know Bradley Bleedsdale?
That's right. Oh,
Yeah, or
Brad.
for training. There's so many amazing people up in your area, but it's really cool to be able to have this constantly growing network of trusted people that you can point somebody else to.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, and that's really I mean, like, we've got, what, 8 people in here right now. Like, that's really what you guys are all about is we want you guys not only just to talk with us, but really to talk with each other and to build up the community because, you know, look at each other. You guys obviously have something in common. You already have this, you're already looking for information on preparedness or on regenerative living or on whatever your little niche of this, topic is. That's fantastic. Like we really need to get to know each other.
Mhm. Yep,
Okay.
absolutely.
So the next section I had was failures. So, and we've kind of already harked a little bit on this because, like, in the preparedness world, like, I don't care how well prepared you are, it's going to run out.
Mhm,
And whereas like on the resilient side, it's literally designed to be as self-sustaining as possible. I mean, that's the whole idea of the food forest, right? Where it's just like this self-propagating system that just exists ad infinitum,
mhm. That's the intention, at least.
right?
Did you know that they've found, like, somebody started doing some really careful research on the Amazon basin?
I was actually thinking about that when I was when I was doing this. I was like, because I'd heard that the
Yeah,
Amazon basin was intentionally built as
yeah.
a food forest.
Yeah, they can tell that it was cultivated as a food forest, to produce. And a lot of the prairie fires and other things that, Native Americans did here
Right,
had the same effect where you keep a savanna that would otherwise start to overgrow. And that was kind of needed because the North American megafauna were gone. And
right,
so these prairies wouldn't sustain themselves if you weren't doing consistent burns and, pushing animals in certain directions and things like
sure,
that. So, yeah,
sure.
these systems really can, not that my, 1 acre of food forest is going to last thousands of years, but it may influence the ecosystem around it in such
Yeah.
a way that it is beneficial.
Yeah. That's
So
kind of the hope. Yeah.
yeah. But yes, I think we kind of covered the concept of the failure modes and how
Mhm.
each of those relate. Do you want to kind of cover uh, relationships, the relationship with environment and how
Yeah.
that
So like,
plays out?
your yard kind of just leads right into that. So like on the preparedness side, it is fairly often a defensive position. Um, where we're protecting against environment, where we're protecting against bad weather, we're sheltering ourselves, hunkering down. Whereas like on the resiliency side is learning to commune with, or however you want to, not to be all hippie about it, but how to work with nature, I guess.
Hmm. Yeah, how nature works and stepping into that cycle is, um, as God's preeminent creature
Yeah.
that can that has the most influence, whether good or bad, over that system. Absolutely, it's um, you know crazy if you start looking into. There's a couple of things I think are really interesting in this thought. It's just a I don't know, thought experiment is one. Nobody will tell you this, but if you want to know what's killing off the coral reefs, go look at where the largest rivers that are connected to agriculture drain and which way the currents go.
Oh no.
And
Oh no.
you'll have your answer as to what's killing off all the coral reefs.
Oh dang.
And so
Ouch.
if I go and spray, glyphosate or 2,4-D or whatever on my
Yeah, sure.
property, and I don't have a good soil system, so it doesn't hold there. It washes down to the stream that's just below my house. And then that washes down to the Caney Fork River, and that washes down to
Yep.
to the Cumberland, and it eventually
To the
winds up
Mississippi
in
and
the Gulf of whatever it is now,
right.
and creates a 300 square mile or larger dead zone
Yeah. Yeah. It's
in the Gulf
nasty
of
down there.
whatever it is. And it's, like I can either do that or I can be the place in which anything that's coming across my property becomes purified, becomes clean, becomes better before it moves out to the other side.
Right.
And, the more each person can take care of their own property and land in such a way that it does that, you're taking waste and making it profitable.
Yeah.
You're reintroducing waste. Like waste should be a non-existent or as low, like there should be very low instances of the word waste in
Yeah.
a
Sure.
regenerative system.
Yeah. Because anything that's a byproduct of a system really needs to be the input to another system.
Exactly. Yep. And that should eventually come back around to the first system. So, all right,
Hopefully.
soapbox
Yeah.
done.
Well, yeah, right. That's funny. And well, okay, so and that kind of does lead right into the community role, because what you're building there by having that circle tide, and having if your neighbor does also, that builds up your soil, builds up the water, and builds up the community internally, having the resources it needs to survive. I won't say ad infinitum, but like, a lot better. If there was a shortage of whatever, most likely you'll be okay. I mean, you might not be great, but you'll be okay.
Hmm. Yep. Well, we're getting how many tons of particles from the sun every
A
day
lot,
hitting the earth too?
a
I
whole
mean,
lot.
yeah. I mean, it really is until Jesus returns or the sun goes supernova.
Right?
Um, you can actually create more and more on any given location over time.
Yeah.
And that's what ruminants literally are. They eat grass, which is solar powered carbon, and
Yep.
um,
And then
then they turn it
concentrate
in,
that sucker down into
yep,
wonderful proteins.
yep, into biological life that and organic matter that goes back into the soil and produce, secondhand vegetarian food for you.
That's right. Secondhand vegetarian. I love it. Oh my gosh. Yes. Yeah. And that's really the best way to look at is the community resilience. And that's like the catchphrase on our website is, like building, resilient people to build resilient communities. Because that's on the other side of it, on the preparedness side of it, a lot of the times what I see is very individualistic. It's my family, which is good. It's really important that you take care of your family. Absolutely. But when it's, at the cost of your community, it's like, well, no, that you kind of missed the point. Like, yes, you should have, you should be prepared for an emergency. Yes. But that's not
Mhm.
where it ends. That's a stopgap for, an oh crap. We need to live as a community that is resilient together. One of the so I'm part of the American Legion, right? And it was really funny because up in Spencer, there's a whole bunch of vets. Like there's a ton of us. And one of them's like, well, I don't want to join up with that, group because I like being alone. And Hansel Moore, our post commander, he's like, it's okay. You can come. We're all, alone. We're just doing it together. And I'm like, dude, that's kind of perfect because like,
Yeah.
aren't we all really just like this lone wolf individualistic kind of guy? But at the same time, it's cool to have friends. They're also,
Yeah.
lone wolf, individualistic, whatever, like, but it's like we really need each other. Like, I don't care how, Rambo you are. Um, you gotta have friends.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's easy to want to turn off the world when you're surrounded by NPCs.
True. True.
And the people who want to be those lone wolves are not going to be the NPCs. They're not going to be the I support the next thing people.
No.
And so they're going to be interesting and they're going to have different opinions and not be offended that your opinion is different than their opinion for the most part. Um, and so it's actually, yeah, I think there's a benefit in connecting with those people, and they're going to have skills that you don't have. And you can go, I can ask you, how do I program a GPR or GMRS radio? Right. And
Yeah,
I'm like, I don't know. I could probably figure it out. YouTube has some videos, but
it
what
does.
if YouTube's down? How do I do it?
True.
Right.
Yeah.
I can give you a call or stop in the shop or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, so that's super beneficial. And the other side of it is, so Bill Mollison, the co-founder of permaculture, he said that one of the two core ethics is to provide for the well-being of you and your descendants.
Mm,
Like, and that sounds selfish, right? But
right.
it's it's selfish in a good way in that you first provide for what's around you so that others don't have to do that
Yes.
for you.
Right.
Right. And that's kind of like comes back to last week's episode about a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children.
Yes.
But once you've done that, once you've part of leaving an inheritance, honestly, is social capital.
Yeah.
Um, I know somebody who's in the network of LFTN, so Living Free in Tennessee with Nicole Sauce,
Yeah.
our friend who was on a while back.
Yeah.
Um, I won't provide names, but her husband was a huge part of the community. He was always giving, always there, always part of things. And he passed away from cancer a few years back. And like, if his wife ever needs anything, all she has to do is one text and she'll probably have five dudes there with all the equipment, all the tools,
Sure.
happy and like going, what else can we do while we're here?
Yeah.
Right. Because he built that social capital, and she's a sweet person too. So it's not like she wasn't involved in any way, but he was the person who was actually connecting with people and reaching out and helping in all these different circumstances. And so the community isn't just, if you want to look at it appropriately, there is kind of a selfish mode. You can approach it
Yeah.
selfishly and still do so in a way that benefits other people, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
I do. Yeah. I get that.
So, not that I'm suggesting people be selfish, but
No.
thinking of it as just because there's a benefit to you in being a part of that group, um, doesn't mean that it truly is selfish.
Right. Yeah. We can well, honestly, like that's what the church is supposed to be. The church is
Mhm,
supposed to be a place where fellow believers can gather together and selflessly, offer up themselves as a living sacrifice, for the betterment of everyone. And if everyone's doing that, then everyone gets taken care of. I mean, that's Acts chapter 2. Like that's,
mhm.
like they sold everything they had and gave to those who needed because, like they were in a foreign area. They had no support systems. They're like, "Hey, what are we going to do? Well, we've got some assets here. Let's sell it and take care of everybody and we'll go home. We'll be fine."
Yeah. Well, and in the early church, it wasn't like, "Hey, we're gonna give it to the leaders who are gonna decide,
No,
put it in a bank account and
no, it
decide
was
who gets it when."
direct. Yeah,
Yeah, it was just, "You know what? I've got an extra car, I'll sell it or I'll give it to you because you need it," or whatever it
exactly.
is, right? Um, yeah, I've long argued with lived in Minnesota for long enough that I had a lot of, left-leaning friends
Yeah,
who were Christians and genuine Christians, and,
yeah,
um I would get in these conversations with them about like, okay, their thought was, well, as a good Christian, I should vote for government taking care of people. I'm like,
sure.
no, government is taking the place of God, right?
Yeah,
And demanding everybody's money. And the tithe is now everybody, whether they believe something or not, rather than and so Christians basically have stopped and churches have stopped stepping up and taking care of people in the
yeah.
community because, well, government will take care of
Government's doing it. Yeah, right.
it.
Yeah, it's one our church is one of the few in the Cookeville area that still has, like, an actual benevolence. Like, you can come by the church, you have to call ahead, but you can come by the church and, say, "Hey, I'm having trouble paying my electric bill," or,
Yeah.
"Hey, I'm" whatever, and we have like, that is a big part of when we take money every week, that is a big part of where that money goes is into that fund to
Yeah.
take care of people because it's an important part. And yeah, Vic said he's like, yeah, the Mennonites, they are a community like that. And
Mhm.
I've been blessed to get to know a lot of Mennonites in this area, and they are some phenomenal people, and I love them. They're amazing, and they really would. They would do whatever. I had a flat tire, and I had a couple of the boys jump in their gator and drive up and help me get it off the car. They threw it in their gator. They took it down to their shop. They plugged the hole. They brought it back. It was like they just took care of it. They're like, no, we got you. It's like,
Yeah, Pack Rat. I don't know if he wants his name actually used, so we'll go with Pack Rat. Pack Ratted says the lifeguard principle. You have to be a good person before you can help anyone else, and that's true. I think if you aren't a genuinely decent person, you're just your intention and your motive for helping somebody else is going to be wrong.
yeah. Well, I mean, like, what do they say on an airplane? Like, you put the mask on yourself before you. There's a reason for it. You're not going to be very effective and helpful to the people around you if you're gasping for air.
Mhm.
You need to make sure that you're squared away, to be a resource to the people around you, and that's absolutely applicable in preparedness and in resilient living.
Yeah, well, and I think there's a lot of people who have I think our culture leans towards learned helplessness.
Yes. Yes.
And, if I can't get it our whole school system is based on, if you don't have the right answer, and the right answer being the one that's in the back of the book, um, you
What?
know, you don't
There's an
you're
answer book? What? I was homeschooled.
yeah, you're wrong. And it's like, well, maybe not. And even if I am wrong, so we're graded on, how well do we get used to being graded on how well do we parrot what we're told we're supposed to parrot.
Right.
Um, and that doesn't necessarily put us in a good position to do anything, especially try and fail, which it's really important to try and fail while times are good, while things are easy,
Amen.
so that you're ready to, the time to learn how to use a flint and steel is not when, when you're stranded in the wilderness freezing to death.
Right.
And because you're going to
Ask my
fail.
son about lighting a fire with a ferro rod. He hates it. He's just
Has
like,
he
"Oh,
made
dad,
it yet?
no, he hasn't."
No.
He's like, "Oh, we got this furrow run." I'm like, "Go for it. Try it.
Yep.
Tell me how that works." He's like, "Dad, I can't get it." I'm like, "No kidding. It's a pain." Like,
Yep. It's a lot easier to use a blowtorch.
it sure is. I've still got pictures of, had a wood stove, basically every house I've ever lived in, and I'll sitting there with a propane torch, just
Yeah,
make
a lot easier than putting in all the paper and
exactly.
stacking
I'm
all the
like, no, that's
twigs.
stupid. Let's just use
Yeah.
a blowtorch.
Yep.
Fine.
I'm on board with that. I grew up with a wood stove and we did not use, I don't know why, because I'm sure my dad had like 10 of them, but we didn't use a blowtorch. It was newspaper because that was a thing
Right.
back then. So my
Right.
parents would get stacks of newspaper from the local grocery store, like the day old newspaper.
Yes.
And then we do, kindling and get that going. And you put the log, you get the skinny log and you put that upright on it and
Right.
build it over time. What a pain.
It was good
It,
education, good
it was a
experience.
It was a good pain. I actually don't I can think of the smell of the
I
smoke
was
and
just gonna say
it
that's like I can smell that. Yeah, my dad worked. He was an electrical contractor, and he worked for printing shops, and so he would bring home the end rolls, and so we'd have this spool of thousands of feet of paper, 3 foot wide, and so we just rip off some and throw it in there and be fine.
nice. Man, that would be awesome for, putting down as weed block in a garden,
Ooh, that would
the
have it
cardboard.
made some wonderful posters because we could make them as long as we wanted to. So
Nice.
make gigantic posters. It's fun.
I put a like okay, so I used wood from the original Tonka Toy Factory from their blueprint shelves because somebody gave
Yeah,
me a stack of the blueprint drawers
that's
for the
rad.
Tonka Toy Factory. It's a crazy story, but anyways, I took those and some old black pipe, and I made my sister um, like a big long thing you can hang on the wall.
Okay.
Fiddling with things, um, and it holds one of those tubes of brown paper, so you can pull it down.
Oh, yeah,
And
okay.
there's a little rip off at the bottom, but she can write things on it. So it's something, it's decorative, but
Very cool.
the story of the paper just reminded me of that.
Yes. Heck yes. All right. Well, let's see. We're at hour 20.
Yeah,
Is
we
there
should
any is there any of the
try to
rest of this you
more.
wanted to hit up or
I think well, so a lot of them we've covered.
yeah,
I'm just gonna rattle a few off, and if there's something you wanna hit on these,
you're
we
good.
can.
Yeah.
So you kinda mentioned cost structure,
Yeah.
with preparedness being a real upfront, you know, buy it now
Yep.
and keep it, for later, whereas resiliency being something that you invest in over time. And again, I think you can spread out preparedness, but obviously you're
Mhm.
gonna wanna have
I
some
say
level of
because yeah, on the resiliency side, like you could dump a whole bunch of money, like you said, like 40 grand on you to come in and build all this stuff, and but then you don't know how to run it.
yeah, and that's I think shifting back towards that preparedness idea, but it's not actually preparedness either.
Right. No,
So,
it's a false sense of security. It
mhm,
really is. There's entirely too many people who have, boxes and boxes of food in their garage. They're like, "Oh, I'm prepared." Like, well, I mean, yeah, but no. Like, do you know how to reconstitute that? Do you
yeah,
have a way? Well, like the one that you said, like the gal that had all the lamps but no oil.
mhm,
Like, yes, you're prepared, but not as prepared as you think you are.
yeah. Or the other person I ran into, and I let me state, the vast majority of people that I work with are absolutely amazing, and, and I run into a couple of difficult people here and there.
Yeah.
Um, but the other one was $30,000 worth of, seeds.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and I'm not joking, that was the actual dollar amount.
That is insane.
And like just kind of a neurotic obsession with how do I keep my seeds safe in a freezer? Like like, have you ever planted one of those? You
Do
should
they
try
even
that.
grow in your zone? I mean, like,
Right.
I
Yeah. Is this for Wisconsin or is this for, Tennessee or Alabama or what is this? What kind of plants do you have? Do you have
right.
soil that will yeah.
Are they even
Anyways,
school plants? Like,
y
gosh.
it's just don't prepare out of fear. And the sunken cost fallacy is another major thing to avoid.
Oh, yes. Very good point. Thank you for bringing that up because there is a lot of people who spend a lot of money like, well, but I've already spent that. If they don't know what the sunken cost fallacy, basically, you've spent a whole bunch of money. So that becomes a driving force. Like, well, I've already spent the money on this. It's almost there. So I'm just going to keep on going. Um, if it's a bad idea, it's a bad idea. It doesn't matter how much you
Mhm.
spent on it. You need to learn to let it go. Sell it. Do something with it. Do figure something else out. But just because you've spent a bunch of money on something does not mean that you need to continue spending money on it.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, sinking more money into something that is not never going to pay for itself is a bad idea.
Yup. Yup.
How they fit together, I think we've crushed it
I think
on
so.
that. Um,
That's
practical
basically been the
example.
entire conversation.
Yep. And the entire conversation has also been kind of like practical example after
Yep.
practical example. So I think we've pretty much covered it. I'm pretty happy with
Yeah.
where we've gotten tonight.
I mean, yeah, it really boils down to, preparedness buys you time, resiliency buys you freedom, but you can't really have one without the other. So, but don't spend a fortune lamps, but no oil without a preach.
Sure will.
I've heard it,
It seems like there's some type of, I don't know, parable about that or something.
right? I actually got to use that one on myself when I was running out of the my town burning down. My Volvo was almost out of fuel. I'm like, okay, God, if you can keep the widow's oil lamp burning, you can keep my Volvo driving, and he did
Yep.
for 4
That's
hours.
wow. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm a believer in modern day miracles. So,
Oh yeah.
um, yeah, that's funny. What was I gonna say? Oh, I had a thought on that, but I guess it doesn't matter because it's gone.
Alrighty. Well, you want to tell them where they can find you and follow you and do all the things?
Yes, and my thought was when your when your fuel gauge gets to halfway, fill it up.
Fill it up. Yes, that's been a running rule in my family for a long time. Is halfway is empty,
Mhm.
because you never know when you might need that extra half.
Yep.
And there's a lot of fuel pumps that are in your fuel tank, and if you run them low repeatedly, they'll burn out, and they're a real pain and really expensive to replace. So
Mhm. Yeah,
pragmatically, just keep it on the top half.
I don't know if you've ever seen it, but there's like a bumper sticker or a fuel cover sticker where it's like a gas gauge on empty, and there's a stick figure like trying to pull it
Trying to
back.
prop it up.
Yeah, and I'm like, y
Aw.
I'm not trying to be mean here, but is that not like the perfect illustration of the poverty mentality? Right? 'Cause
Yeah.
you're not saving any money by not getting gas earlier. You're
No.
gonna use the same amount of fuel.
Yep.
Um, like, you're just putting yourself in a position where maybe you're now going to have to walk to a gas station or be unsafe because 'cause you're stuck on the interstate because you couldn't make it to the next exit, or,
Yeah. Right.
like, be late for something because now you have to stop for fuel when you otherwise wouldn't have to, or whatever. It's like just a slight change in mindset. You're not gonna go any further by trying to push how far your vehicle can go on a tank of gas.
Right. Right.
Um, so anyways, that's soapbox done again.
Alrighty.
So people can find me at
There you go.
thehomesteadconsultant.com. If you're watching this on YouTube, it's likely on my channel, which is if you just look for the Homestead Consultant, I put out what I think is decent content on
Yeah.
DIY type homestead stuff,
Your
technical
your
stuff.
laser one's cool. Go watch the laser one. It's good.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, YouTube is YouTube's shown it to like 70 people last time I checked. I'm like, come
Oh,
on, guys.
yeah. Go watch
Um,
it. Go share it with your friends. The laser one. It's cool.
I thought it was good. Yeah, how to use a laser level in permaculture design. So, where can people find you, Jared?
Okay. So I am
Go
Jared
to his
Wilson.
shop.
Go to my shop.
That's
Come to my shop.
that's the
So
answer.
yeah, honestly, if you're anywhere in the Sparta, Spencer, Cookville area, I'm right on 111, halfway between Sparta and Spencer. I got a little store. In my store, I've got a lot of the stuff you see behind me: backpacks and medical kits and freeze dried foods, knives, not guitars. Those are just my guitars because I'm a guitarist. Anyway, um, come in. We can talk about guitars too. I don't care. but I have food. I've got books on all of the things that we talk about. I'm still working on the firearms thing. That's been just the most ridiculous. Anyway, still working on that. In the interim, you can come by the shop, or you can follow me on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok. Though I don't really post a whole lot on there. I tried. It's just I don't know. My brain doesn't work well in that whole social media thing. I'm working on it. I'm trying.
I liked when you were doing, like product spotlights. I thought that was
Yeah, I it was one of those things like I want to get back into it. As soon as I get through the firearms thing, I'll have a lot more free time to be able to do things like that. I even I set up my desk like here to do that, and then I just haven't. I've got like cameras and like anyway. So you can follow us on Facebook. Um and yeah, make sure you follow, hit that follow button, the like button, because Facebook and YouTube just absolutely just crush my especially mine. I don't know. Has yours been doing better than it was? No?
no,
Okay. Yeah. So make
no
sure you
YouTube.
like, share, just send to your friends, because YouTube and Facebook just absolutely hate us. And we need to spread the news because people need to learn this stuff.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. YouTube really liked me for a little bit there, and then they're like, we figured out who you are.
Yeah, right.
Never mind.
All
Yep.
righty.
So
So yeah, follow us. We do this every week, Tuesday, 7 o'clock. So yeah, catch us next week and we'll talk about other things. Not sure what other things, but we'll figure that out.
yeah, we'll get there. Have a good night, everybody.
So yeah.